Sexual. Some people are straight, and some people are gay. Maybe I'm just sexual. 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 Some prefer the top, and some prefer the bottom. But we're all just sexual. Sexual. We're all just sexual. Sexual. Yeah. Hey, we're not in the 60s, but yet we're talking about the same things. So why are we having these same discussions? It's so interesting that you find it fascinating. Who I'm sleeping with and what I'm doing. Why do we all need these labels? Your character is all that matters to me. To me. You shouldn't let ideology and favors make you stop loving family and friends. Some people are straight. Ooh, yeah. Some people are gay. Ooh, yeah. Maybe I'm just sexual. 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 Some prefer the top. Some prefer the bottom. But we're all just sexual. Just sexual. Just sexual. Some people are straight. Ooh, yeah. Some people are gay. Oh, yeah. Baby, I'm just sexual. Baby, I'm just sexual. Sexual. Ooh, yeah. Some prefer the top. Some prefer the top. Some prefer the bottom. Some prefer the bottom. But we're all just sexual. Sexual. But we're all just sexual. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Why do we all need these labels? Is he gay or straight or somewhere in between? Yeah. Don't let ideology and favors make you treat your brother or your sister differently. Yeah. Some people are straight. Some people are straight. Some people are gay. Some people are gay. Maybe I'm just sexual. Maybe I'm just sexual. Sexual. Just sexual. Some prefer the top. Some prefer the top. Some prefer the bottom. Some prefer the bottom. But we're all just sexual. Sexual. Just sexual. Sexual. Some people are straight. Some people are gay. Some people are gay. Some people are straight. Maybe I'm just sexual. I'm just sexual, baby. Sexual. I don't need a label. Some prefer the top. Some prefer the top. Some prefer the bottom. But we're all just sexual. I'm just sexual. We're all just sexual. Yeah, yeah. Sexual. Sexual.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, everyone? Hello, 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 and welcome to yet another ratchet BubzDaGawd version read through, okay, of The Cross in the Closet. I hope everybody's having a wonderful Monday night. I really wanted to get back on track with the read throughs with The Cross in the Closet. I really enjoy reading this book. Just the fact of someone willing to face their fears and really apply faith is very inspirational to me, especially in this time of my life where I'm learning to really apply faith with BubzDaGawd included, not excluded, but included. And reading this book just motivates me even more to continue to go for my dreams, to do not despise small beginnings, and the realization that everything, and I do mean everything, is working for your good. It's literally just about the way that you look at it, okay? So before we get into tonight's read through, y'all already know how I do. I like to dot my I's and cross my T's because I don't have time. But people ask, how do I always end up deleting this thing? What the fuck? Like every single time. I'm always doing it. Okay, here we go. Excuse me. Boom. Okay, copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made, okay, for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. I am not getting paid for this, and this is definitely educational. Okay, spiritual education, as well as I feel like human education, okay, in reference to humanity. All right, now that we have gotten that on out the way, let's jump into the first chapter of tonight, which is, oh, come on, I just had the thing pulled up. What's up? Come on now. Here we go. Chapter 12, called Living in the Tension. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Turn this up just a little bit more. I'm gonna keep it right here because I'd rather be too loud than not loud enough, bitch, okay? Chapter 12, Living in the Tension. I wake up, my eyes open and see the bedroom bathed in the dull blue light of an overcast morning. It is 5:15 a.m. and I have only slept 3, maybe 4 hours. The blow-up mattress is sagging and I feel the wood laminate flooring beneath me. It is hard and cold. Seconds pass and my brain reactivates slowly, too slowly. Today is going to be a long day, busy and instrumental. How am I going to make this? I already want to go back to sleep. Coffee. The thought is enough to keep my eyes open and give me the strength to, sit up. I look over at Dane. He is sleeping, but apparently still horny. Oh shit. Thank God I covered him up. Okay, that thing was poking. I creep into the bathroom and take a quick shower, and I hear Amy and Nick. They are up making breakfast. I smell the bacon as surely as I can hear it pop and sizzle in the pan. It feels good to be with friends. Too bad my schedule is so packed. I would have enjoyed spending more than the first and last night of this trip in their company. This evening, I will be taking a class on nonviolent protesting. It is a requirement for anyone participating in the action with Soul Force. Matthews 5:9. Blessed are the peacemakers, and they shall be called sons of God. It seems like a common sense, but I have never felt like a peacemaker before. After a quick bite to eat, Amy walks me to the subway and shows me how to navigate the city. I have decided to sightsee as much as possible before making my way to the church where Soul Force will meet, and my first stop is the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I have designated blocks of time for each section of the museum, but the majority of my 5 hours here will not be spent, meandering the many hallways filled with suits of armor and weaponry or ancient artifacts of antiquity. I am drawn to the art galleries, the same galleries where my father once brought me at the age of 13. I walk through the maze with full-fledged nostalgia. A decade may have passed since then, but the hours I spent here with my dad are still some of the favorites in my life. A lot has changed during that decade. My father and I relate differently than we used to, especially since the divorce. He has renounced the fundamentalist Christianity of my youth, readopting the religion of his youth, Catholicism, I believe. Every week or so, I find brochures on the kitchen table about same-sex attraction and the idea of freedom through celibacy. I know there's a broad spectrum of belief within the Catholic Church, and not everyone believes homosexuality to be a sin. I just wish my dad would choose a more progressive parish, seeing as how his own son says he is gay. A lot of my dad's closest friends are colleagues. A lot of my dad's closest friends and colleagues, are gay and lesbian, so I expected a little more support, But the worst part of it, for me, is that the Pope he looks up to so much, the person the Catholic Church identifies as the mouthpiece of God, says I am an abomination and a danger to the human race. I leave the museum in search of another boyhood memory with my father and find a street vendor selling pierogies. I sit on the steps outside the museum, quietly eating my lunch and watching a young woman playing an accordion. She is European and beautiful. She looks like a gypsy, and for a moment I fall under her spell. Her song ends and the trance is broken. I throw $1 in her basket and walk south to my next destination, the Central Park Zoo. Much of the zoo is typical. The monkeys have their own house and the birds do too. Come to think of it, every animal I visit has their own house, except for the seals, which enjoy a large round swimming pool at the center of the park. But the real attraction of the zoo is the penguin exhibit. I have seen it a dozen times in movies, but never in the flesh. I walk into the man-made cavern and I am confronted by a colony of little chubby butlers. They are perfection, I sit down against the wall, staring at them as they waddle around the enclosure, only to launch into the icy water like bullets from a gun. Whatever awkwardness they exhibit on land disappears as soon as they are in the water. My eyes can barely follow them as they dart back and forth. I wonder if God looks at us the way I look at these penguins, seeing the same basic creature with only the uniqueness of our own markings to give us away. I wonder if he laughs at our awkwardness, but takes joy in our ability to fly through the icy waters of our individual calling as we navigate life and love. I hope this is the case. I hope he sees all of us as the same, no matter what labels we bear. We are the same species after all, even if we do not want to admit it. 3 hours later, and I am ready to plant myself somewhere and rest. I find my way to the church, sit on the steps, and light up a clove. Bitch, you light up a blunt, nigga. Okay? I am nervous. My parents and pastors have always told me that activists were lunatics. I am walking into this protest completely blind, having never attended one before, and it is unsettling. Oddly enough, every time I have read the Gospels, I have thought Jesus personified the role of activist. His methods were unorthodox, and his message was rejected by the pious wherever he went. But his truths resonated with ordinary people, and I think that is what separates the religious pious from the activist. I wonder if being an ordinary radical is what this whole protest thing is all about. Speaking loudly for those ordinary people whom the mainstream would rather silence. After a few minutes of sitting on the stairs to the main entrance of the old church building where we are meeting, I see Mel walking down the street. His assistant Samantha, is next to him, and he sees me. And as he sees me, and as he sees me, a broad grin spreads across his face. As he reaches the steps, he holds out his arms and we hug. The man I once considered my enemy is now embracing me as a friend, and I am humbled by his graciousness. I feel wholly accepted by Mel, and I wonder what he sees when he looks at me. I'm so glad you could make it. I'm so happy you invited me, I say. After a few minutes of small talk, Mel and Samantha go inside the church to set up. For some reason, I am not as ready. I wait around for a few minutes and another familiar face approaches. It is not familiar because I have met the guy personally, but we have spoken on the phone several times. The young man's tattoos are immediately noticeable. He does not look like a punk, the way he has been marketed many times in his life, but he definitely would not fit in, the churches I have always attended. Jay Baker. Oh, you must be Tim. Like Mel, he hugs me, and I feel an instant connection. It's great to finally meet you. Well, you too. This is your first action, isn't it? He asks, adjusting the small messenger bag at his side. Yes. My meek response is met by Jay's warmth. Well, you are in for a learning experience, I'll tell you that. Soul Force does great work. Jay is the only son of Jim Baker and the late Tammy Faye. Oh wow, he is awesome. And he went through as much hell as a child he can face. Okay, y'all gotta excuse me. Hold on, I gotta drink something because I am over here stuttering. Hold on, y'all. This damn thing got me cotton mouth. Give me 1 second. Y'all, please excuse me. I already told y'all this read through ain't gonna be perfect. It's gonna be BubzDaGawd way. Bitch, we still getting it together. I'll start from the last checkpoint, okay? Well, you are in for a learning experience, I'll tell you that. Soul Force does great work. Jay is the only son of Jim Baker and the late Tammy Faye, and he went through as much hell as a child could face after a devastating scandal hit the Praise the Lord, PTL ministry of his parents. Growing up surrounded by the scandal, Jay developed a drug and alcohol addiction, overcame those addictions, and found God in a way he has never had before. God's grace, he says, set him free from the vices he adopted after his life was flipped, upside down. After leading a church in Atlanta, Jay came out in support of the LGBT equality. The mainstream church rejected him as harshly as if he had come out as a gay man himself. He lost everything. Jay is now the pastor of a small church called Revolution in New York, in Brooklyn to be exact. Revolution meets in a bar called Pete's Candy Store. Jay walks through the church doors and stops when he realizes I am not behind him. I look up at the door skittishly and he waves me inside. I take each step cautiously, knowing that by entering this training, I am coming full circle in my journey. While Soul Force was once my enemy, now I will stand among them. I am unsettled. Am I traveling this road too quickly? Have I too casually dismissed the teachings of my youth? Or is this the first real moment where I am taking steps towards living out a more Christ-like grace? This experience might solidify some of the more negative stereotypes or completely disprove them. And I do not know if I am ready for either to be revealed. Change has always been a difficult, Change has always been a difficult for me. You mean change has always been difficult? Okay, don't have me sound like I'm stupid, girl. This is a grammatical error, girl. Change has always been difficult for me. And this change is the most difficult because it is possibly the most important change I will ever experience. The moment feels pinnacle. I toss my clothes into the gutter and follow Jay inside. What in the hell am I getting myself into? I find myself in a large room with maroon carpets and a unique assortment of people unlike any I have ever met. They are not the straight-laced conservative types, though most of them were raised to be. They are free spirits in New York with the intent to stop a grave injustice that I have just discovered. This injustice takes place in countries all over the world, and as I listen intently, the revelation shocks me out of my ignorance. In countries all over the world, gays and lesbians are not just subjected to religious persecution and second-class citizenship. They are regularly beaten, imprisoned, and even executed for practicing the abomination of homosexuality. I hear this from one of the organizers, a handsome 30-something who helped organize this action, and I cannot believe my ears. Matthew shuffles the paper in his folder and addresses the group. Thanks, everyone. It's awesome to have all of you here. I think the first thing we need to do is explain why we are here. The following is a written statement that will be posted on soulforce.org. Brian, could you read the report for us? Brian begins to read. In December 2008, France introduced a declaration to decriminalize homosexuality at the United Nations Assembly in New York City. The statement condemned violence, harassment, discrimination, exclusion, stigmatization, and prejudice based on sexual orientation and gender identity. It also condemned killings, executions, tortures, arbitrary arrest, and deprivation of economic, social, and cultural rights, noting that in 77 member countries, homosexuality is illegal, and 7 other countries declares it punishable by death. Almost immediately following the declaration's introduction, the Holy See issued a statement opposing it, suggesting that it could lead to same-gender marriage acceptance. In response, Soul Force pulled together a team to confront the Holy See. Oh shit. We sent a letter to the ambassador's office, asking it to withdraw its opposition to the declaration and to meet with us to begin a dialogue on the destructive nature of heterosexualism. Girl, Andrew Caldwell, what the fuck is sexualism? Heterosexism. I said sexualism. Girl, it's weed. It's so... By late March, Soul Force had negotiated a meeting with 2 of our representatives, with Father Bean, assistant to Ambassador Archbishop Miglori Fr. Bean. Girl, who's that? Some white people shit. While Friendly appeared surprised to hear that American gays and lesbians experienced any kind of discrimination. During the meeting, we pressed for a meeting directly with the ambassador, and we were told the office would get back to us. They have not. I listen in shock. I feel like I am living in the book of Leviticus. I feel the veil being lifted and scales falling from my eyes one by one by one. It is almost more than I can handle, and I begin to feel angry. This is why we are here, Matthew says with a deep breath. I wonder what my devout Catholic father would say if he read the report. The Catholic Church has gone too far, and we now feel a need to respond. We are here for a reason, okay? People are dying, and it's within our power to hold the church accountable. If you will each please take out the pledge card from the front of your folder, we are going to talk about the tenets of nonviolent protesting. Please read along as we go into them. After we are done, sign and date your card. 1. As I prepare for this direct action, I will mediate regularly on the life and teachings of Gandhi and King and other truth seekers. I grab my pen and make a slight note in the tenet. Before Gandhi, I write the name Jesus, and out of the corner of my eye, I see Jay doing the same thing. This is an updated version of Dr. King's Tenets of Nonviolence from 1963, Jay whispers. In the original, it only says Jesus. I nod my head. The history of nonviolent protesting is long, but became an organized alternative to physical bloodshed in 1906 with Mahatma Gandhi and the South African Campaign for Indian Rights. Perhaps the most notable example of nonviolence was the year-long SALT campaign, where over 100,000 Indians were jailed for intentionally breaking the SALT laws created by the British Empire in India. The nonviolent protest tradition in America is very rich as well. In the 1840s, Henry David Thoreau refused to pay the Massachusetts poll tax levied for the war. After being bailed out of jail and someone else paying the tax on his behalf and ending his protests, Thoreau wrote his political beliefs in a book called On the Duty of Civil Disobedience. He is famous for saying, "Must the citizen ever for a moment, or in the least degree, resign his conscience to the legislator? Why has every man a conscience then? I think that we should be men first and subjects afterwards. It is not desirable to cultivate a respect for the law so much as for the right. The only obligation which I have a right to assume is to do at any time what I think is right." Thoreau was not the only one. By the mid-20th century, nonviolent protests were the primary tool used by religious institutions, labor unions, student groups, and anti-war activists. The South, my home, was changed forever by these nonviolent protests, where race relations were the next notable issue of the day. Next to Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr. is perhaps the most important figure in the nonviolent movement, a hero to anyone who has ever carried a picket sign. You are part of something much bigger than yourself. Yourself. Andrew Caldwell, get the fuck off my tongue, bitch. I know you say you ain't gay no more, bitch, but I am. So let me read the revelations, girl. You are part of something much bigger than yourself, Matthew says solemnly. Please understand and be grateful for, the privilege we have to question the powers that be. 2. I will remember that the nonviolent movement seeks justice and reconciliation, not victory. I want to read that again. I will remember that the nonviolent movement seeks justice and reconciliation, not victory, girl, because this battle ain't yours, bitch, it's the Lord's. This battle ain't mine, girl. I'm just here to get justice and reconciliation, girl. Victory comes by karma. As human beings, we have a tendency to seek victory over compromise. Matthew continues, but this isn't our aim over the next 2 days. We are here to show the Archbishop who we are so that we can work towards reconciliation and justice. Victory creates enemies. Reconciliation creates unity. Girl, I got to read that again, bitch. What you say? Let me highlight it, bitch, because that gave my whole motherfucking life. Can I do what I just did down here? Where's it at? Victory creates enemies. Reconciliation creates unity. Wow. Now that's a quote. I'm going to have to remember that. Let me screenshot it, actually. Thank you. Matthew's words speak to me, not just in light of my politics, but also in the light of my faith. For years, I have sought victory by evangelism, not reconciliation between God and his children. Wow. I write down Matthew's words. Victory creates enemies and reconciliation creates unity. We are on this thing, this journey together, and we have only 2 options: cooperation or condemnation. And I hope we all prefer cooperation. 3. I will walk and talk in the manner of love and nonviolence. We are not here to argue or condemn Catholics. We are here to be here, okay? To love others and to show a better alternative. Please, if faced with someone who wants to argue, Speak lovingly to them and show them the respect you hope they show you. I gotta still work on that, girl, no shade. 4, I will contemplate daily what I can do so that I will contemplate daily what I can do so that all can be free. We are not fighting for ourselves, we are fighting for everyone. Think in terms of others and don't fall into the mindset of complacency. Contrary to what some of you might be thinking, we can and will make a difference tomorrow. It may not be instantaneous, but our voices will be heard. 5, I will sacrifice my own personal wishes that all might be free. How many times have I ever thought about sacrificing my comforts for another person's freedom? The Bible teaches us to take care of those in need, to give freely. Jesus even said in Matthew 25:40, "Truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers, you did it to me." I was taught this, but never had it spoke to me of social justice. If I was taught to take the Bible and apply it to my life, why was I also not taught that spirituality and social justice are connected? 6, I will observe with friend and foes the ordinary rules of courtesy. This is simply the golden rule we reworded. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Don't be a jerk. It's too easy to be a jerk, you know what I'm saying? It takes courage to speak love to those who condemn you. 7, I will perform regular service for others and for the world. 8, I will refrain from violence of fist, tongue, and heart. We can use our words for good or for evil. We can use them to build up others or tear them down. Physical violence is destructive, but hateful words and a hard heart can be just as detrimental, if not more so. Nonviolence dictates that we use neither our bodies, words, nor hearts to hurt one another. 9, I will strive to be good in spirit, spiritual, and bodily health. 7 through 9 are read twice each, slowly, and they pierce my heart. I have spent years working on my spiritual life, but never my physical. 10, I will follow the directions of the movement leaders and other squad captains of our nonviolent direct actions. This one is important, Matthew says. Police officers will be present over the next 2 days, waiting to see if this protest gets ugly. They're also there for our protection. Please follow our direction and everything will go smoothly. We want to make a difference, and that means we all need to be on the same page. Matthew calls for a break, and I make my way to the bathroom. I do not have to go, but I need the solitude. I reach the first stall and practically fall into the seat. All of this time, I have been taught that the activists were godless robots, that they were hateful to anyone who had an opposition or had an opposing worldview. The tenets of nonviolent protest, at least SoForce's tenets, are all about 2 things: reconciliation and respect. How could I have not known this? I will sacrifice my own personal wishes that all might be free. I feel an indescribable guilt for mentally painting these people, as monsters, and worse yet, for treating them as monsters that spring day at Liberty University years ago. I pull the list from my pocket and read it silently a dozen times. And my mind begins to pin scripture reference to each principles. They are scriptures I have always known, but never applied. Can I read it again, bitch? They are scriptures I have always known, but never applied. Ikarobushande. The sickening realization dawns on me that I have never really followed these ideals, all the while claiming to be a Christian. The people I condemned most heartedly have shamed me by walking more closely with the faith I have proclaimed so boldly. The people I condemned most heartily have shamed me by walking more closely with the faith I have proclaimed so boldly. Wow. Talk is really cheap, and these hoes need some government assistance. If I am honest with myself, I have to admit that these people whom I have always felt prejudice against are better people than me. Living love is so much more tangible and powerful than speaking love. I feel inspired to follow suit. When I die, I want people to remember me as the guy who loved everyone. Because if I loved everyone, then I really would have followed the example of the Jesus I serve. Love your neighbor as yourself, the Bible says. How foolish I was to pick and choose only my fellow conservative Christians as neighbors. Lord, please forgive me for believing as I have, and for blindly condemning people I never even understood. I pray all this. I pull a pen from my pocket and study the non-violent pledge card on the monstrous plastic toilet seat dispenser. I will do my best, Lord, to follow these in my life. I sign the pledge and date it, and feel a profound sense of peace. After a few more hours of talking, everyone who has a place to stay in New York leaves for the night, and those staying at the church, including me, settle down for the night. We are all sharing the big room with dark red carpets, and I pull 2 comfortable chairs together to create a makeshift bed in the corner of the room. Mel looks over at me and smiles. He has the spirit and vitality of a man half his age, and I know that his works have kept him young. He cracks jokes and we all laugh, and he tells us stories of his work with Jerry Falwell and Pat Robertson and others. His life has been unorthodox but impactful, and I am amazed by his humanity. Mel, the founder of Soul Force, is here, but he never spoke at the meeting, contentedly giving others the spotlight. We turn off the lights and curl up, ready for sleep. All is quiet save a few coughs and deep breaths, and my exhaustion overtakes me. I feel something at the foot of my makeshift bed, and I half awaken to see Mel covering my legs and feel with a blanket so I wouldn't be cold, excuse me. He moves over to Samantha and does the same, tucking her in like a doting grandfather. I feel tears well up in my half-closed eyes, and I weep silently. I was so wrong about this man. And ladies and gentlemen, that is chapter 12, called... We gotta get back to the top, bitch. Hold on, girl. This weed is good, baby. Living in the tension, living in confusion. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a little break. I need one, girl, because one thing about weed, girl, when you smoke weed, girl, your mouth get dry, bitch. I gotta drink some water, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and listen to our little theme song for this, read through, and we will be back in a moment, fam. 1 second.
People are strange, and some people are gay. Maybe I'm just sexual. Something for the top, and something for the bottom. But we're all just sexual. We're all just sexual. besties, but yet we're talking about the same things. So why are we having these same discussions? It's so interesting that you find it fascinating. Who I'm sleeping with and what I'm doing. Why do we all need these labels? Your character is all that matters to me. You shouldn't let ideology invade us. Make you stop loving family and friends. Some people are straight. Ooh yeah. Some people are gay. Ooh yeah. Maybe I'm just sexual. Something for the bottom. Look, we're all just sexual. Some people are straight. Ooh yeah. Some people are gay. Oh yeah. Baby, I'm just sexual. Ooh yeah. Something for the time. Something for the time. Something for the bottom.
Alright, y'all. And again, the name of the song is called Sexual by B Slade. Again, B Slade is the fucking GOAT. Okay? Shout out to him. I feel like I need to cut this nigga a check. I'm just saying. I forgot to do before we went to our break and kind of just give my little synopsis of the past chapter. So before we get into chapter 12, I kind of want to give like my little spin on chapter 13. Before we go to that, I want to give my little spin on chapter 12. Y'all please excuse me, because once again, this was impromptu. Okay? But the fact that, again, for those of you who have been reading with us for this long, that Tim's experiment is now coming around full circle. Now he is going to actually go out and deal with the people who he once associated and affiliated with. He was able to face his own fears about LGBT people, but also face the fears of his accountability and his responsibility for what he has contributed to the hurt and hate that has been spewed against LGBT people through fear and ignorance. And it was one moment where he was questioning himself. Like every time it came time to face him, it's one thing to face the Pharisees inside of himself, which he was learning to master, to ignore, and even challenge within his own mind. But now he has to face the Pharisees outside of him, those who might know more biblical scriptures than him, those who might have more biblical connections than him, those who might be able to know his past information and use it against him to condemn him. And hell, even individuals who might just flat out whoop your ass because the Bible says that LGBT people are abominations and the wages of sin is death. And then when he walked in and he saw this group Soul Force and the people that was there and the amalgamation and the different shades and colors and expressions and worldviews and expression views coming together, and how the world at large viewed LGBT people, to where even when there's change, when there's inclusion, when there's acceptance, when love is actually being applied, those who actually walk in love struggle to see it, and they want to go ahead and keep it the same way. And like he said, which was so crazy in it, these individuals talk the talk but can't walk the walk. And here it was, Tim, again, the person doing this experiment, is actually walking it. And it's scary because it's like, I'm actually applying this. I'm not just saying it because it was a thing to do to fit in or whatever, but like when life gets hard and we're in these situations, to actually apply it. And how those in the world that apply it, unfortunately, are a minority that are open about it. And the fact that they're getting ready to once again face the church. The church is a multi-billion-dollar organization. In the previous chapters, Tim even said that when Prop 8 came out, a lot of conservative evangelicals came together and conjured up and spent millions of dollars in anti-LGBT hate and propaganda to spread lies to stop the advancement of other people. But then when they're faced or met face to face with it, they struggle, and actually walking in that energy, they start pussyfooting around. So it's very interesting. But now, with chapter 13 entitled Activists Like Me, we actually get to get Tim's accounts on what that actually looks like to be an activist, to actually walk in Christ's shoes. Like, let's not forget, if you read the Bible, girl, they chose Barabbas over Jesus, and Jesus was over here helping hoes be healed and everything, girl. Died on the cross and everything, and still said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. For they know not what they do. I know what I'm doing, but they don't. So forgive them. So anyway, let's get into chapter 13, Activists Like Me. Day one of the protest ends much as it began. The Vatican's embassy remains closed and locked, and even the mailman was unable to deliver the mail for the day. Neighboring businesses tell us that they have never seen the embassy closed like this during the middle of the week, and it is obvious they are doing everything in their power not to engage our group as we vigil outside the sidewalk. But before today, I never understood how simple a nonviolent protest is. We take turns passing out flyers, answering questions if anyone asks, and hold signs that say, "Stop spiritual violence." We are led in song by Matthew and spend time in reverent silence. There is nothing about it that could be constructed as morally wrong. It is a time of sincere peace. Several members of the group pass the hours in prayer, others in conversation. The only thing I have a difficult time with is the rain. It is unrelenting and miserable. My feet are soaked to the bone. After our day ends, I walk to a nearby Walgreens and spend $12 on 3 pair of fresh socks. I shiver uncontrollably while I swipe my debit card, and it takes me 3 attempts to put in my PIN and successfully make my purchase. Samantha stands next to me, reassuringly rubbing my back. I feel weak and hungry, but am in good spirits. After paying for my socks, Samantha and I decide to grab a bite to eat back by the church where we are staying. Brandon, another activist, decides to go with us. He is tall and dark with a shaved head and glasses, and he has the gentlest demeanor of anyone in the group. He was at the same protest as me that day at Liberty years ago, and hearing his memories of that protest make me feel more like an ass, if that were possible. We emerge from the subway and walk 6 blocks to the church. Changing into dry clothes feels like a rebirth, and as I am finishing, I see Mel changing into a suit. Looking sharp, Mel. I whistle and Mel blushes. I got 2 free tickets to the opera, and I couldn't pass up the opportunity to go. Mel sounds like a kid on Christmas morning. His enthusiasm is contagious. Have fun, I say. You too, he says as he walks out the door. Samantha and I are meeting Brandon at the sports bar 3 blocks away, and the walk allows us, our first opportunity for privacy. So you've read Kevin's book? Samantha asks. Recently, a mutual acquaintance of ours wrote a book about a semester he spent undercover at Liberty University. He wanted to see if the stereotypes about evangelical rights were true, and in the process, he made friends with Samantha. Yes, I have. It was really good. Ever think you'd be fooled again by someone undercover writing a book? I ask. Absolutely not. I smell an experiment like Kevin's a mile away. She sounds so confident. Yeah, you probably would. I hope she doesn't hate me when this is all over. After a block or 2, I broach the topic of sexuality. Samantha's devout Christian faith makes me curious about her opinion on the gay scene. I want my life to be an example. Conservative Christians perpetuate the stereotype that being gay means being promiscuous and godless, and that when their children come out, those stereotypes create barriers. I just want people to know morality has nothing to do with orientation. The everyday relationship we have with God is all that matters. The promiscuity you're asking about is a symptom, not the problem. As she speaks, I listen to the passion in her words. I know I can learn a lot from her. But what if the fundamentalists are right and being gay is a sin? She stops walking and looks at me, grabbing my hand delicately. Tim, if God knows my heart, then he knows how much I love him and want to serve him with my life. If being gay is a sin, then I'll just have to trust that when he said that his love covers a multitude of sins, he was telling the truth. She kisses my hand and smiles at me. Have faith, brother. Just because the people in your life doubt you and are trying to change you doesn't mean for a second that they're right. You are an incredible woman, I say. She looks up at me, grinning. Too bad we aren't straight, I add, squeezing her hand. Yeah, too bad, she laughs. But for the record, you are kind of cute. She winks at me, and we start walking again. And I feel as though I have found yet another friend for life. The three of us sit at a table in the modest sports bar, and I listen as much as possible. Listening is easy when you are eating the biggest burger you've ever seen, a 20-ounce triple with bacon. Ooh, my chest hurts just thinking about that. Brandon and Samantha laugh at me as I eat the entire thing. Congratulations, Tim. You eat like a straight slob, Buffalo, Brandon says, biting a cherry tomato in half of the end of his fork. His salad is tiny compared to the plate of food in front of me. I'm from the South, and we Southerners know how to eat, okay? I say, wiping burger grease from the corner of my mouth with a crumpled napkin. And you are proof of that, Samantha laughs. All right. Several hours later, we curl up in our makeshift beds. Once again, Mel makes sure the covers are keeping us warm. And I realize the oddest thing. I do not feel like I am at a protest with a group of gay activists. I feel like I'm at a reunion, and these people are my family. This is much more to them. There is much more to this than standing on a sidewalk with signs. This is as much for our group in the moment, and it is for the people and I don't know what's going on tonight with my tongue, bitch. I don't know what's going on. We all have our days, girl, and I guess this is it, baby. Okay? This is as much for our group in the moment, and it is for the people and cause we are advocates of. And I am having fun. Ooh, Lord, I gotta do better. Day 2 of the action is much like the first, but without the rain, thank God. Once again, the Vatican's embassy is closed and locked, so we stand outside and hold our protest signs. Stop spiritual violence. I hold the sign high, and a taxi driver honks and gives me the finger. I see a rosary hanging from his rearview mirror. Go figure. About 3 hours into the vigil, the mailman comes again and delivers the mail. He walks up to the gate and inserts a key that he did not have yesterday. Mel and I look at each other, trying to comprehend this sudden turn of events. We have composed a letter, out thoughts of the contradiction of the church's path of peace with their United Nations veto, and we want to deliver our letter directly. This morning, we decided that we had to get inside the building if possible to deliver the letter, and this is our first and probably only opportunity. The mailman leaves the gate slightly ajar. Tim, let's go, Mel says urgently. Mel, another activist, and I run through the gate and into the building. I hear nervous shouts from the police behind me, but we keep moving. We will probably be arrested, but it does not stop me. Let them arrest us if they want for walking through an open door to deliver a letter to a man who thinks it's okay for people to die just because they are gay. Inside the lobby, time seems to slow almost to a stop. I look up at the golden words on the wall of the lobby, "The path to peace." It is the first time I see them unobstructed, and I think for a moment that I rushed inside the building because I needed to see these words up close. I needed to see them without the bars blocking them, to see how beautifully the golden letters contrast the black marble of the wall they hang from. I needed to taste the contradiction up close, the contradiction of the place, but more so, a similar contradiction within my own heart. I have hated this building from the moment I saw it, because this building reminds me of myself. It is closed off, impersonal, political, and religious. The similarities are unnerving. There are too many to name. I stand inside the lobby and survey the inside of my own heart. Outside the gate, the Pharisee watches me. He is yelling something, but I cannot hear him. I choose not to hear him. I do not need anything distracting me from the palpable tension I am living second by second in this building. I feel outside my own body, as though I am watching myself stare up at that God-forsaken lie on the wall, a lie I have lived all along. When I tell my family the truth of my experiment, I will tell them about this moment. I will tell them that the lie I told them about being gay is nothing compared to the lie I have lived all my life in the church. Can I truly claim Jesus and be at odds with his children? Are they even his children? I remember the scripture that says, "By your fruit you shall know them." Yes, they are his children, as much as I am his child. Salvation is not a country club, and we do not have the right to deny anyone admittance. People and their relationships to God are their own concern, and no good can come from my shoving my theology down someone else's throat. And then the answer comes to me. There is only either a path to peace or a barred gate protecting an empty wall. Both cannot exist simultaneously within me. I feel a hand on my shoulder. It is a police officer, and I know I am about to be arrested for trespassing. I hold my wrist behind my back, resign myself, and take a deep breath. If I get arrested, it will all have been worth it. I got to see for myself under a microscope, and even though what I saw has shaken me, this moment seems faded. "Why are you putting your hands behind you?" the officer asks as he leads me towards the door. Haven't I just broken some sort of law? I look at his face and he smiles sympathetically. "Son, I didn't see you do anything." He winks. "You look pale. Go drink some water." I walk outside and a few of the Soul Force crew gather around me to ask what happened, but I can barely talk. "What happened inside?" Samantha asks. I'm not sure. I look over at the Pharisees, and as he opens his mouth to talk, I glare at him. He closes his mouth and walks over to the stairs of the next building. Coward. Well, I gave them the letter we wanted them to give me. I gave them the letter we wanted to give them, Mission accomplished, Mel says. He walks over to me and puts his hand on my shoulder. "Good job, Tim. I'm proud of you for charging in like that." His praise means more than I can describe. I don't understand. Tim, what happened? Samantha presses for an answer. Mel smiles at me, and I shrug my shoulders. Samantha drops the question and puts her arms around my waist. And then, just as quickly as the drama began, the moment is over, and we are back at our post in the vigil line. I am finally on the plane ride home. The experience of New York City and the action with Soul Force is something I will never forget. But as I lie back in my seat and close my eyes to rest, I still see those golden words. The path to peace felt more like the path to hell. For what the church leaders allowed to continue to happen to gays and lesbians all over the world, it is hard not to wish ill upon them. I am thankful that the God I am finally getting to know transcends my prejudice, that He is able to show grace where I have a difficult time of it. I flew to New York not knowing what to expect. Looking back, I have to say everything culminated in that ever so brief moment in the lobby. I felt like I might just be grasping why I felt called to this journey in the first place. My life has been a lie even bigger than the one I have had to tell my friends and family in order for this journey to be possible. Y'all please excuse me. The way I be reading so fast, my mind works faster than my mouth, so you gotta bear with me, okay? I can only hope my eyes will continue to open to the inconsistencies and lies I have believed all along. Weeks later, I receive an email telling me that there is news about the action on the Soul Force website. 5 paragraphs down, I read the news I have been praying about since returning home. Several weeks later, as we persisted in trying to meet with the ambassador, we were able to persuade the ambassador to sit down with our representatives. The meeting was again cardinal, and the ambassador indicated that he would be discussing the statement with the United Nations when they meet in Switzerland this summer for their summer sessions. This meeting was significant in that after 8 years of trying to negotiate with the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church, this was the first time we have been able to sit down with the high-ranking representative of the Vatican. Given the years of hostile rhetoric between the Vatican and the LGBT community, we are hopeful about the improvements we have made in helping the Vatican understand the sacredness of LGBT lives. Soul Force will continue to monitor the situation and will keep people up to date. Some may read my account of New York and scoff at the attempts we made those days to help improve the quality of life for lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgenders, and all the other spectrums, individuals across the globe. To those people, I offer only one thought. Jesus fought for the oppressed. If you claim to follow him, his mission is your mission. You do not have to agree with the organization that I protested with, or with me, for that matter. But if you can see a cause for what it is, a chance to live the gospel instead of just preach it from a pulpit, you will be able to share your faith in a much more tangible way. I learned this because of Mel White. I learned this from Matthew, Samantha, Brandon, and others. I learned this after finally listening to that still small voice within my heart, and I finally obeyed its call to stand up for something bigger than myself. I learned from this unnatural and abominable, and for them, I am thankful. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of chapter 13, Activists Like Me. And to give my little recap and then we out, okay? This is the level of faith that I am learning to manifest in my own life, because I know that there is a strong work that needs to be done in the earth, and that all of my life, with me being bullied and judged, I didn't know that was preparing me for a greater purpose that I have been running from a very big part of my life. The responsibility, the awareness. But now I'm in a place kind of like where Tim is, where he's facing it on his own. He's facing it in his own mind. He's facing it in his own heart. He's facing it with his old theologies and ideologies, and actually walking the experience by faith, which means I don't know how the hell this shit gonna work out. Excuse me. It could, but I know for a fact that something in this experience is gonna work for me, even if it gives the illusion of being wrong, or being scary, or being fearful. To actually challenge it, to study, to show thyself approved. And the fact that once again he's spending time with these people that years ago he didn't see them as people, he saw them as the Bible was interpreted in reference for them to be abominable, sick, twisted, who deserved death and blood upon their heads. The individuals who were the reason for the downfall of Sodom and Gomorrah. The individuals who would not inherit the kingdom of heaven. And as Tim actually walked in the footsteps of Christ, which is being around the people who are oppressed and seeing for themselves with an open mind and an open heart and love, was able to see these people not as people who I'm just standing on the sidewalk with in the rain and cold and shit and we just there, but I'm literally building a family of people in Christ. I've shedded the false ideology of Christ and actually walked in the actual reality and experience of Christ, which is love. And if people read the Bible, Christ kept saying, by the renewing of your mind and by not hardening your heart. That was something that everybody has connection to. It's just that he was showing people to do that. And then once again, these people who claim to be followers of Christ, people who claim to be about peace and love, was shutting their doors. That embassy was shutting their doors because they didn't want to meet with them, because they were too high and mighty. Why would I meet with those people? I'm above them. Do you not see my title? Do you not see my robes? Do you not see my garbs? Do you not see the bling bling, bitch? Do you not see the big ass hat? Do you not see the staffs and all the shit? But here come God, Source Universe, creating an opportunity for them to get their point across. That's why the saying, what you resist is going to always persist, is because when you fight against something, it's going to continue to come at you because you're resistant of it. You're giving that energy, and that energy is really literally just attracting it to you. And remember, earlier on in our read-through, Tim was speaking out against Soul Force. And then he ended up walking beside Soul Force. And he saw the words, the pathway to peace, but it was behind bars. It was behind all these obstructions. But when he was able to rush into the building, okay, like the damn red light at Krispy Kreme just came on, girl. You just cut everybody off on 8-lane traffic highway. Just all type of accidents, girl, because shit coming fresh out of the machine, okay? When he rushed up in it and he was able to once again see the objective truth for himself, those big ass golden holy words, the pathway to peace, and how that pathway to peace was being expressed by people who say they know the pathway, girl, and how it was contradictory, and more importantly, how there still was residue within Tim that associated with that contradiction. And lo and behold, that little attempt, that little sliver of faith, that little opportunity of faith, that little mustard seed sized faith was applied, ran in the building, delivered the letter, then weeks later was able to schedule a sit down with them in reference to their statements made at the UN conference or situation. And that's why love is important, because there will come a time where people will cut their ears off to you. They will shut off their experiences to you. They will downplay your experiences. They will snuff out your experiences. And that's going to happen for every single one of us. That's why love is important, because when we are at our weakest moments, we need to be thankful and grateful that there are people that are willing to put in the work, all because of love, which is something that is priceless but yet given to every single one of us to experience. So again, shout out to Timothy Kurek for this experiment, and it inspires me to continue in my activism work, because once again, Tim was only doing that experiment for a year. Being LGBT is a part of my life experience. But the fact that there are people out there who are willing to really walk in that Christ shit and willing to understand gives me so much hope in humanity. But it also teaches me how to love people who struggle with giving that love to me. And that God's source universe was in the one place that the majority of us never thought it was at, which is inside of us. So anyway, I thank y'all for coming through for this impromptu live for chapter 12 and 13 of The Cross in the Closet. Please leave your comments, thoughts, concerns down below. Please like the video. Please do that above all things, because that would help my channel get up in the algorithms, girl, because I know I have good, amazing, bomb, dope ass content, and one of these days, girl, it's just gonna hit the way that it needs to hit. But I do not despise small beginnings, girl. Everybody got to start somewhere, girl. I'm just grateful to be able to have the experience to be able to solidify myself now while I'm on this smaller level, so that when I get up and ascend and grow and evolve and have my time in my prime as far as social media is concerned, to be able to utilize that in a righteous way, in a right way, in a way that's fruitful and life-giving, that helps other people, so that when I do draw my last breath, that, you know, I can come to earth, and I conquered earth as BubzDaGawd in my own way and just left love, because there were so many people who did that for me, and to just be able to do it for other people, that's a blessing. So thank y'all, I appreciate it, and I'm going to leave y'all with our ending song, which is called Tears, again by B. Slade, one of my favorite songs. And I will see y'all again next time for our read-through of The Cross in the Closet. Y'all have a good one. Peace.
Feeling so lonely, feeling so down when you need someone. No one's there to be found. The pain inside can't be expressed verbally, so you cry on your pillow. You don't know what you're saying, but I know an interpreter of tears. shoulder to cry on. God understands your tears. You can't keep it bottled inside, so just let it out. In God you confide. That's what He's there for. He knows all your pain. It's alright to cry. Joy will come in the morning, but I'm no interpreter of your tears. When your voice will cry, listen off in ear. Oh, God understands the language of tears. He knows all about all your pains and your fears. When you're right and you're wrong, when your friends are gone, He's a shoulder to cry. God understands your tears. He understands the language of tears. Oh, the language of tears. And not crying so many tears. When you're right and when you're wrong, when your friends are gone, He's a shoulder to cry on. God understands your tears. Yeah, yes. He knows all about your pain. Oh, yes, He does. He understands your tears. It's alright to cry. Oh, Jesus, you can cry.